Hi, welcome back to the final whistle. Good evening. Hope everyone's well. Welcome back to the channel. For everybody who's going to comment tonight, get involved. Hit like button if you enjoyed the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. Get down and do so. Tonight, we're going to discuss the man himself. We've done Sean Dyche. We spoke with... We spoke to Mr. Horsfall, Jacob Horsfall. We spoke about Sean Dyche with him. Tonight, we're going to discuss Danny Rohl. What is happening at Sheffield Wednesday? What is the current situation? What is the buyout clause? What is the style of football, tactics, everything? And what the hell is going on at Sheffield Wednesday? Because there's a lot. I thought there was drama at Leicester City, but Sheffield Wednesday and Chanziri, it's bloody extortionate today. And what's happening at Sheffield Wednesday, a real bad place at Hillsborough at the minute regarding what's happening with Chanziri and that. And I'm going to be joined by Ash from the Wednesday week. He's going to give me the lowdown on Sheffield Wednesday and what is the current situation regarding Danny Rohl. I'm sure he'll give Leicester fans an insight of what to expect from the German manager. But let's get in the comments before we bring Ash in. Jack's favourite portrait of his hero. I mean, there's a few heroes on there, FA Cup-wise, Community Shield. The Premier League one's up there, Wes Morgan. But, yeah, Danny Rohl definitely ain't my hero, mate. I don't think he's going to be wearing a cape for me anytime soon. But big up armchair anyway. Dyche, Rohl, Wilder and Southgate are my main contenders. It's so obvious to anyone that's listened to any reliable reports about the club over the last 4 or 5 years that Dyche won't be appointed. It's not the style they want and will never happen. Evening, Wilby, how are we, mate? Are we after Michael Keane? I mean, you don't want to keep removing bloody defenders and bringing in people on 80 grand a week. Hey, Jack, what's your thoughts on it? Last night's Euros, it was good, wasn't it? Big up England. Canal, how are we, mate? John, how are we? Evening, Andreas. Evening, Transfer News. Evening, Scott. Let's get Ash in from the Wednesday week. Ash, how are we?
Yeah, not bad, Jack. Not bad. Thank you for inviting me on.
Good. What's happening at the Wednesday week, mate? For any people who's neutral fans or Sheffield Wednesday fans that are watching, what's going on?
Yes, mate. As you can imagine, I know you just touched on it just in your introduction, but it's pretty busy time at Sheffield Wednesday for all Wednesday fans and content creators, podcasts, all the such like. So, yeah, busy every day. There seems to be news coming out of Hillsborough, and I don't think I've ever seen in the last few weeks good news. So it's a bit down in the dumps, mate, to be a Wednesday night at the minute.
Before we get on to the man himself, Mr. Danny Rohl, let's talk about Sheffield Wednesday. They're in a real bad situation again, aren't they? Transfer embargoes, HMRC, players not being played. How big of a mess is Sheffield Wednesday under Chanziri?
The biggest mess you could probably imagine, mate, to be honest, or getting towards it. Look, we're not quite at the situation of Reading, Bury and all that sort of thing, but it's looking like we're getting close. We've got an owner. He's been there 10 years now, and no doubt the first couple of seasons spent the money. Brilliant. The players that the manager wanted, he brought in, and a lot of Wednesday fans, still not all, were happy with him. Obviously, it is, isn't it, when your manager is being able to spend the money. But then after the 2 seasons that we failed, obviously lost in the playoff final, and then in the second year it was in the semis against Huddersfield, we've hardly spent anything. And when we have spent, it's been very rare. And it's come in the last probably 3 years now that it has been that Chanziri has been pretty negligent towards the club, to be honest. And I know that sounds harsh and strong, but it's especially now. end of this last, what we're now, since the turn of the year, 6 months, 7 months, it's really gone downhill.
So he hasn't been paying the players, the staff. I know we spoke about it briefly before we started. You said about non-playing staff. He's told them that they could be very much not paid tomorrow, if that's right in what I'm saying. So how has it got to this situation, Ash? I mean, surely Chanziri's got quite a lot of money.
Well, they never say if you own a football club, you're going to be rich. It's the quickest way to be a millionaire, isn't it? Start as a billionaire and then buy a football club. He's not got no money. The whole background to Chanziri with his family being the majority holders of the Thai Union Food Group, which is John West Tuna and such like. It's not there anymore. We reckon that his dad's turned off the pocket money. His supposed businesses in Thailand have been a construction and building. There's a lot cleverer people than me, mate, that have just not even found any trace of these companies. So we really don't know where his money's come from. And it's got to a point now, obviously, that he is scrambling around. And like you said, well documented in all the news that we didn't pay our players for May. And he already released a statement or news has come out saying that the non-playing staff to expect either short wages or no wages tomorrow, which is absolutely, it's unforgivable. It's people, like I said, mortgages, loan, all people's outgoings on the first of the month, they're expecting their wages coming in. And for a business owner, that we always think, don't we, that football's awash with money. You know what I mean? We see it on with footballers, and I don't begrudge footballers. Whatever they get paid. But the amount of sums. If you can buy a season ticket still at Hillsborough for nearly £800, £800 at Hill, which is absolutely unforgivable, charging fans that much. So no wages coming in. Some players still haven't been paid from last month. And this is just I think, and don't get me wrong, I am not ITK, is that the ones that are worth some money have probably been paid, because the ruling is, and I don't know if you know this, that if you don't get paid for 2 months on the trot, you can then write to the club to exercise to be released from your contract. So if they don't get paid for 2 months consecutive, the player can write to the club and give 15 days notice to be released from their contract. Which, if you think you have got players that may be worth 4, 5, 6 million in the open market, in the situation we're in, we can't allow anyone to leave like that.
What's happening with the transfer embargo?
Yeah, so the transfer embargo at the minute, and it's our local journalists are doing a fantastic job trying to get all the information and put it into English for us idiots. So as I understand it at the minute, it's for non-payment of players, which is for the month of May, and then I think there's a potential of a 3-window ban as well. So, but I think that is there, but it's at the discretion of the EFL. So if Chanziri sells the club, I don't think it's 100% nailed on. They can appeal it, and it may be reduced to 1 or 2. But there is a transfer embargo there, but it's just how much it'll be if he sells the club. This is.
And the big question is, I think, with Sheffield Wednesday fans, how much does he actually want for the club? Because I've heard in a region of different amounts, £75 million, bigger probably amounts than that. And how much is the club worth, and how much does he want for it, realistically?
So obviously, there's like anything involving money in football, there's all sorts of figures banding around. Originally, from very first, I think the 250 million was one thing, which for 250 million, just to put in context, our neighbours got sold for 110 million, and they've been in the Premier League at 3-4 times before us in the last 25 years. And they've got much better, and it's gutting for me to say, but they're much better set up because of that. Then it was 150 million. Then we did have a bid put in about a month ago, which was $45 million because it was from it was from an American consortium. Yeah. And Chansiri came back and said, no, he wants 120 million. And his reasoning for that was Ipswich got sold for 100 million, and he reckons that we're a bigger club than Ipswich. This is Ipswich that have just been in the Premier League and spanked everyone virtually in the Championship the other year. And they've got a much squad, the price of the squad and probably everything else. So up to probably the end of the week, it's probably around about 75 million that he's asking for. If you ask people who know more about football finance, they reckon anywhere between 40 and 50 million is the absolute max that Sheffield Wednesday should be sold for. So.
The thing is with Chansiri, he's a bloody nutcase, isn't he? He is. If you look at him from the outside, from a neutral fan or from other clubs, you look at him and you think, this guy is just not real, is he? Let's be fair. He's not respecting the club. He's going against. He says things and then does the complete opposite. It'd be a bloody bloke to work under, let's be honest. And Danny Rohl's obviously felt that sort of pain under him. But I do think you've got to be realistic of where Sheffield Wednesday are now. It's not about what they've won in the past or how big of a club they are in history. It's about where they are now and what you can get for the club, because DFL is going to get to a situation where how Reading got it, and they're going to say, well, you've got to sell the club. And then he's going to say, well, I can't sell the club, but they're going to make him forced to sell the club. And that's what Sheffield Wednesday fans would probably want him to do, forced to sell it, because he has to. There's no choice.
It is. And he's getting to that. There's a Sheffield Wednesday Trust that are really campaigning. There's other fan groups, supporters groups that are really putting it out there for the EFL to actually do something. My understanding with the Reading situation, that went on for 3 or 4 years under De Jonge. And it was only when he was found guilty of a misdemeanor or something illegal in his home country that the EFL could act. So our understanding is that the EFL can't actually do anything at the moment under the current rules.
Yeah. Unless
Chansiri gets found guilty of an illegal act or whatever. So at the minute, as we stand, the EFL are pretty powerless. But it's times like this where you can see it. Why should we want to wait 6 months, 12 months for that when we're way further down the line? Is why can't the EFL challenge him now, put him through the fit and proper test, which he won't pass? I am adamant of that. I don't even know what goes on in it, but I'm sure it's not just looking at how much zeros you've got in your bank account, because he's got none. Because if he has some, then he should be paying players. So fans are getting really, really angry, and right too, because there's people at the club not getting paid, there's players not getting paid. We're embargoes. We've got the North Stand apparently is falling down virtually. It needs remedial work that's been there for 3-4 years. So look, I love Hillsborough. It's a proper old school ground. He still needs money spending on it. He still needs spending on it just to keep it ticking over, and he hasn't done it.
Is the transfer embargo squashed if he sells the club?
No. It still goes. It moves with the club, not on the owner. But there is no hard fast rule, like I said earlier. There's no hard fast rule of it's 100% 3 windows. They could appeal and get it reduced, but there is still going to be an embargo. So it could be 2, or it could be down to 1, or they might just say, well, no, you've bought it with the 3 window. Tough. So it's not. And look, like I said, there's a lot of people a lot cleverer than me that have spent hours and hours researching this for us. So yeah, it's a murky business, of course, football, isn't it?
What's happening with contracts regarding the coaches and that? I mean, there is saying that Chris Powell and that can leave tomorrow after their contracts run out. Danny Rohl he's going to be one that we talk about in a minute. But what about his coaches? I mean, where do they stand at this minute in time?
So at the minute, shall I class them as the first team coaching? Because there is a lot of coaches there, but who are still under contract. But the main ones, Henrik Pedersen, Chris Powell, and a couple others, are all out of contract tomorrow. There's no signs of anything that's been offered, any news or any sort of some murmurings that anything's been offered to, especially the likes of Pedersen and Powell, because they were the two of Danny Rohl who brought in, who have been very influential. So if Danny Rohl was to leave, I think Henrik Pedersen is quite a high choice on a lot of Wednesday fans' wish list. And obviously Powell has been a revelation since he's been at Sheffield Wednesday. So, so tomorrow is really is a pretty big day. And we've got 3 players as well that's contracts do run out. So we've got Barry Bannon, Captain Bannon. We've got Callum Patterson and Akin Famewo. So they're 3 that have been offered contracts, and there's nothing that's been come out if they've signed them, not signed them, or anything. So, interesting.
It just seems like a lot's going on. But let's talk about the man himself, Danny Rohl. Very much linked with Leicester City. Leicester, I've got him on the shortlist, haven't they, to replace the sacked route. Well, mutual consent Ruud van Nistelrooy. Read into it what you will. He is one that Leicester City like, and the style of football that Leicester City want to play. There's been obviously talk about his exit from Hillsborough, that he will leave. His future is still being discussed with Sheffield Wednesday. But what is the current situation for him at Sheffield Wednesday regarding leaving and that?
Yeah, so currently, obviously, he signed a new contract last summer. So he was only there on a short-term deal, signed a new contract, and then that all came out when I believe it was Southampton came looking round about Christmas time that his release clause was £5 million. And then £5 million for all the backroom staff. So if you wanted to take Danny Rohl and all his staff, it was £10 million. That was the quoted. He signed that contract, so he was happy with that.
Yeah.
Now, once there was a fans forum that a well documented fans forum in January that the owner took part in, and there was all sorts happening in there. We needed players, we needed centre backs, we needed a striker, and in January we got a 34-year-old Stuart Armstrong who signed on a short from Vancouver Whitecaps. And we got Ibrahim Sissoko, who has never been a footballer in his life. So, and they weren't really 2 positions we were desperate for. We needed a centre-back, and we didn't get one. So there was rumours of the falling out between the owner and the coach, the manager. They hadn't spoken for weeks and all this. And then it was very evident from some of Danny Rohl's press conferences that he wasn't happy. You look into it, his demeanour, even when we won, which wasn't very often after January, to tell you the truth, there was something wrong behind the scenes. He finished on the last game of the season at Watford, and he caught a flight back home to Germany on the night of the game, and he hasn't been seen or heard of back in Sheffield since. He's done a couple of interviews with German press that he's come out, and you can read into them whatever you want, but basically he doesn't want to come back to Sheffield. So, which, as a Wednesday fan, is a bit gutting to hear, because obviously last season he got us out of a virtually impossible situation with being 3 points after 18 games and then obviously surviving. Highly regarded Sheffield Wednesday fans because of and his just whole demeanour around the club and towards the fans. But obviously in the last, the last 12 months, especially the last 8 months, that has gone pretty much downhill now with a lot of Wednesday fans.
So what's his future hold at this minute in time? Is it the fact that it will be drastically that he will leave Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah. The local reporters have reported, and I think national as well, have said that Sheffield Wednesday are discussing with Danny Rohl or his agent, his representatives, a way probably out of Sheffield. So out of his contract, if that is a mutual thing or a buyout, which sometimes they have somebody, I'm not saying it's Leicester, but somebody will pay his buyout, and then he's miraculously a week later he's a Leicester manager or whoever. It is looking that his situation is untenable really with Sheffield Wednesday. If that is because of the owner, you wouldn't blame him. If you're not getting paid in your job, you would look round, wouldn't you? But then there is some fans that are like, as soon as the season finished, and even before it, he was touting himself round. I think he was upset that he didn't get to go to Southampton, which is a team he was out with. Hossenhauer, was it? His assistant there. Yeah, I'm rubbish with names. Anyone knows that. So I think he was upset at that, and it's just that the waters have been muddied a bit with him, his relationship with Sheffield Wednesday, which is a shame. Obviously, we still do regard him as probably one of the best coaches we've had, and did think that he was going to go on to, don't get me wrong, go on to much bigger and better things than Sheffield Wednesday. I know it's hard not to believe for Sheffield Wednesday fans, but there is bigger and better teams than us. But the way he's just acted, and there's been the Southampton job, obviously Leicester now, Leipzig, Wolfsburg. There's been quite a few jobs that his name's been mentioned, but not as strongly as probably Leicester. And what he believes is his worth is maybe it's not what's the same as some owners of other clubs, because he has not been that heavily linked. He's been linked to names like everyone does, but he's not really. And he's had talks with some clubs, but not made the final three or not made the shortlist. So, yeah.
It's a weird thing with Leicester, because Rohl's been linked with us for a while, and Van Nistelrooy, we knew what was going to happen in the end. We knew we were going to leave. It was just how he'd leave and how long it'd actually take for bloody Leicester City to say something. But Danny Rohl's future is Middlesbrough wanted him. They went for Rob Edwards. Wolfsburg wanted him. They went for somebody else. Leipzig wanted him. They went for a different approach. And Leicester, we don't know what's been going on behind the scenes. We don't know if we've said to Danny Rohl, well, we'll offer you more than what they're offering you. Will you come here and we'll offer you this type of contract? Because I know what Leicester's like. They'll offer big contract or big wage to Danny Rohl and say, okay, then well, we want you more than they do. And he'll probably say, well, how much do you want me for then? And what is your actual price? And they'll talk about that. I don't think Leicester, well, according to reports, they've not met with any candidates and this, that, and the other, but sometimes that's false, isn't it? You don't know what goes on behind the scenes or who said what. So it wouldn't surprise me if Leicester have had many conversations with Danny Rohl, or he even has visited Seagrave for a chat. Who knows what's happening? But let's talk about his Sheffield Wednesday record and his tactics and formations. And so statistically, they've got him down his 89 games in charge, 34 wins, 19 draws, 36 defeats, a win rate of 38%. Points per game, 1.36.
You've got the same page as me up, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have. No, yes. So, you can skew those a little bit because of the first season.
Yeah.
He did come in and the first few like 10 games, I think he only won one out of his first 10 games at Sheffield Wednesday because of the situation we were in. That's not on Danny Rohl. That is his first management job. That is getting his feet under the table, working with the owner, which that must have been a baptism of fire for your first managerial job. Under no illusions about that. So yeah, you can look at stats and make them whatever you want. But that first season, how he did it, how he got us playing, how he got that team that were basically on the floor, he got them in. He brought some players back. He actually, the way he played, the high press, the front foot, like counter attacking play, was really good to see, especially from what we'd had previously, and being so poor. It was refreshing. This season just gone, tried the same, and it didn't. It worked eventually. In the first start of the season, we beat Plymouth 4-0 at home. We thought we were going to win the league. It's all rosy. And then we lost the next three, and quite handsomely as well, we lost them. So it was really bumped back down to earth. Our defensive record is not the greatest. To say that we want to play a defensive block, like a mid block as they call it. I mean, I'm not like a tactical magician type of thing, but you read these things and what you see, and he liked to play three at the back, but not so much this season. So it was four at the back because of injuries, or he just thought that that's the way he wanted to play. But originally it was three at the back. It's a hard one because of our players that we've got. I'm sure if Danny Rohl has got the money to spend, which I'm sure he will at Leicester with all your parachute payments, he will get the sort of players. Look, we got Shea Charles in from Southampton on loan. What a player! Absolutely. It fell off a bit at the end of the season, but for his first 6 months as a player, he was just the kind of player we needed. Somebody in the middle of the park, and it was fantastic. One of the things that was levelled at Danny Rohl was his substitutions. Either we couldn't understand why or what he was doing, or as fans, because we all love Football Manager and we know best, of course, is making his substitutions too late. He brings someone in the 85th minute, so we were either 1-0 down or 1-0 up and want to shore it, and he'd make changes with what we thought was too late. Instead of the 70th minute, it'd be like, say, 85th. So there was that about him. There is another thing about Danny Rohl, is that obviously he brought in quite a few players over last summer as well. And were they all hits? No, probably a couple of them. Like I say, Shea Charles on loan. James Beadle came back after his initial loan, and he played well in the first half, but then he got dropped for Pierce Charles, who's a young up-and-coming keeper who's fantastic, really highly thought of. So maybe he's a bit naive in the transfer market, but then I can't really give him too much stick because we don't know how much hindrance and handcuffed he got from the owner. So look, I know Leicester are having their own problems at the minute.
Yeah, well, our board, a lot of answers.
Is he jumping from, the fire into, what is it? From the frying pan into the fire? I think, but we're not a frying pan. We are proper on fire, as in we are a roaring inferno at the minute. So I don't know how it'd go for Danny Rohl at Leicester, to be honest, at the minute.
What's his style approach? One says here, modern and fearless. Is a high pressing, fast transition, and a compact defensive shape.
Yes,
is that
I would agree. I would agree with that. Yes, we high press. We did try and hit teams on the break. It was just that the defensive side of it, I don't think we had the personnel. We were pretty leaky in some games, should I say. I know we finished 12th, and that's a fantastic from last season, but we were up. We were 3 points off the playoffs, 2 points off the playoffs come January. So we did fall off pretty bad. Was that Danny Rohl? Was that the owner? Was there stuff going off? We don't really know, but we do think as Wednesday fans that he did have his head turned by Southampton and probably spat his dummy out a little bit.
He's 36, isn't he? Still learning the game. He's worked under some very big coaches. I think there's one here. Who is it? Hansi Flick with Germany, Ralph Hasenhüttl, Julian Nagelsmann at Leipzig. So he's worked under some big coaches and he's developed quite well, hasn't he?
He has. If you look at it's his first manager job. You look at his CV. He has got German national team under Hansi Flick, who did make an appearance at Hillsborough to watch as well, which was nice to see, and Timo Werner as well. So we got all the German bigwigs coming down and having a look. I don't know what they'd make of Hillsborough, I tell you. Going back to the 70s and 80s, they're used to stadiums in Germany. And Hasenhüttl, I'm telling you, the guy at Southampton.
Hasenhüttl,
That's it. If you look at that, he has been quite influential, and you think picking up quite a lot from the names that he's worked under. So come out of the blue at Sheffield Wednesday. I don't think many Wednesday fans would have heard who this manager was that's come in. But then you do your Google searches and you think, actually, he has worked under people that he must have done something. Apparently as well, he did interview in the summer for the job before Cisco Munoz got it. So we know how Cisco did. And if he did a better interview than Danny Rohl, I don't know what. Well, it's our owner, isn't it? So I can understand why. But he's got the pedigree of coming up as an assistant and as he was like an analyst as well when he started off. Yeah. So coming into his first manager's job, to a club like Sheffield Wednesday, personally, I think he's done well under the circumstances. So I will be, obviously the way it's soured in the last few months is probably unforgivable because the way he's acted or how he's perceived to have acted. But it's a shame because, like I said earlier, Sheffield Wednesday fans did, or some still do, hold him in high regard. And Stevie off our podcast was saying in the next 3 years he'd be managing in the Champions League. So I don't know how true that'll be.
Well, this is what we say as Leicester fans. You know, you bring him in, he does well, and then teams are going to be after him, aren't they? The big clubs. You look at Enzo Maresca, got Leicester City up, went to Chelsea, jumped ship straight away. I'm just hoping if you do bring someone like Rohl in, it's not going to be a 1 year thing. It's going to be a long-term thing. Something he can build, something he can be adaptable with, that he can bring in his own players, actually work with the bloody board. Well, the board work with him, because that's what the board need to do. They need to work with the manager and stop telling all these porkies and that and stop lying. They need to actually come out and be honest.
I think he will be well aware of that after dealing with Chansiri. I am sure Chansiri sold when he signed his new contract in the summer, end of May last year. I'm sure there were these sorts of discussions. I'm sure there was I need X amount, I need this. And he was backed with his backroom staff. So he did bring in, or some, obviously, Pedersen, Powell, and the others. So he has been back there, but not probably as much in the transfer if believe that it was Chansiri, it could have been a number of things. So he probably knows how to deal with people a lot better now. And if your board are in the same mindset of Chansiri, then God help anybody, not just Rohl who takes that position. But I'm sure he's learned a lot over the last 18 months, 20 months at Sheffield Wednesday.
Well, I'm hoping the bloody board at Leicester have learnt a lot about when they bring in the new manager of that style of football and that, and actually giving people money to spend and stuff like that. Because Van Nistelrooy came in, got about a signing for about £2 million, got promised the bloody heaven and earth to actually bring in players in January, about 3 or 4 players, and never end up the case. They lie through their teeth. They'll tell the manager that he can do this, do that, and then when it comes to like January, it's like, yeah, but I can't do something about that. We can't physically go and do that. But why didn't you say something before? You know what I mean? You've got to be honest and up front, haven't you, Ash, when you do get these managers in? Because it's not going to, the relationship's going to be like tarnished from the start.
Yeah, but you do. But if you want that manager, so if Leicester board are really hung up on Danny Rohl, They are going to tell him what they want to tell him to get him there. Honestly, me, I don't think it matters what you tell him. I think if you say you've got a job, he's going to sign it. I really do think that. I think that he wants a job. At the minute, he's been linked, like I said before, with lots of jobs and nothing's come off. He probably holds himself higher than what he actually is. He believes his own hype, maybe. And I believe that hype at the start. But if even Bundesliga 2, the guy from Plymouth went to Schalke, Mursic, right? If he feels that he's a top-end championship manager, bottom-end Premier League manager, or even a Bundesliga manager, then is mistaken, because there's been plenty of jobs in the last 2-3 months that have come up in that ilk, and he's not even been really heavily linked for one of those positions. So he might have to take a little bit of a hit to his ego. You've got to have an ego, of course, to be a manager. Of course you have. You've got to have that. But he must have to swallow a little bit of that and go for a job that, yes, it might not be the one they want, but at least Leicester have been in the Premier League. They're going to have a little bit more money, and probably he's going to get paid every month.
What's he like regarding adaptability? Obviously, he's not a man who's got just one formation, isn't he? What's his philosophy in that like? I mean, what was he like regarding formations, attacking, defensive? How would he really set up at Wednesday? What would you feel his most strengths were? Or still are at this point, because he's still there?
Well, yeah, saying in the past tense, aren't we? But yeah, he's still there. Look, he must have some sort of motivational to go last season, obviously previous season, to get us out of the hole we were in. So I would say that he must talk a good game. He must get his points across really well. He like I say, he started off at 3 at the back, but then he's gone more to a 4-2-3-1. Which was obviously 4 at the back. Then we had Charles and Bannon in the middle. Yeah. And then we'd have 2 wide players, and then Windass in the number 10, you want to call it. And then one of our awful strikers up front. EK Ugbo or Michael Smith or Callum Patterson. I mean, yeah, we weren't blessed with choices for strikers. And he didn't really move from that, to be honest. Initially he did. Like I say, went from his 3 at the back, but he was quite rigid. We didn't really have the players, and I'm sure Leicester's squad is a hell of a lot better than ours to be able to adapt to different positions and the way he wants to play. It may have been that Sheffield Wednesday only had the players that he thought could suit that way. He didn't really change it in game that much. Personally, I found it was either way the game was going, he'd try and influence the changes with substitutions. And like I said before, the substitutions, it was suspect at times. So the pressing, the high press, the counter-attacking play, the counter-attacking ball, trying to be solid at the back, playing out from the back, which obviously that's not a new thing now. I think it's everybody. Everyone wants to keep it with good feet.
Yeah, with these young managers.
Everyone wants to keep with good feet, which we have with Pierce Charles. James Beadle was just obviously won the under-21s championship last night. Wasn't as good with his feet, but still better. It's going to be it will be interesting as a Sheffield Wednesday fan to see how Danny Rohl goes if he goes to another club, if it's Leicester or somebody else, because just the way that we've played or had to play, he may not have the men or he may want to add, like I said, Leicester are going to have money. He's going to be at least more money than Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, I think I've got more money in my bank account than Sheffield Wednesday. I'm in my overdraft. So it will be interesting to see.
What about character? Obviously, people look at Sean Doughty's character, very strong-minded, straight to the point, no messing about. You either do it or you're not a part of my plans at all. What's he like regarding character-wise in that? Has he got a real streak to him, or is he one of them that can also go and put the arm around the shoulder of the players that need it as well? What's he like regarding them two sides of it?
Before all this has turned a little bit sour at Sheffield Wednesday, you would have probably spoke about Danny Rohl in a different light. So now that some Wednesday fans are coming around to the thing that he's a bit of a baby. He didn't get his way to go to Southampton, so he's not. It's wrong to say down tools, but the way he's approached the last few months, because we only won, was it 3 games after January? Do you know what I mean? We really struggled. So I know it was five games, was it? I think it was 5 games this year. It was. So it came across that he didn't get his own way, and like I mentioned earlier, his demeanour in press conference was pretty. Reading into things now, obviously with things that's gone on before, you're looking into it, and it's pretty damning. And it's hard. It's hard because, like I said, we rated him. Some still do rate him really highly at Sheffield Wednesday. It's just that side of it. He never, and I don't think this is easy to say because there's not a lot of managers do it, but he never really dug players out in his post match. He praised, of course he did. He praised players when we played good, and he praised players when we come off for a 4-0 battering. I can't see him, and that might just be the way he comes across as being one that really puts an arm around a player. I think he's very rigid in his statistical, analytical, with his background of his decision making. But that's easy to say when we haven't really got the strongest squad. So for me, we had probably 14, 15 players really that had a chance of playing week in, week out. And the others were just not. His first real thing of the season before last, we had striker Lee Gregory, who really I don't know if he fell out or he didn't fancy him. If you believe it, that he wouldn't let him go out in January on loan for the last half of the season. He wasn't going to be in any of his plans, but he didn't let him go. If that was Chansiri or if that's the manager, we don't know. But stuff like that, that you think, and for Leicester fans or whoever his potential next club will be, is that probably I'd look into how he's conducted himself in the last few months at Sheffield Wednesday. Because if he hasn't got his way, if he did, see last season he signed a new long-term contract, 3 years, maybe 4 years. If it's 5 million buyout, then it's going to be a good. He knew what the owner was like then. Chansiri's not changed a massive amount in the last year. He knew what the owner was like. We'd had wage misses previously, so it was always the potential of that happening. So for him to sign a new long-term contract and then behave how he has and with the owner, I think maybe something to look at or be wary of for fans. Because if Leicester are struggling or he doesn't get what he wants with the board or thing, then obviously he's got previous to spitting his dummy out and saying, I'm not coming back. Which is not what you really want to hear, is it? When you will be wanting to be in the top 2 of getting straight back up.
What can Leicester fans expect from him? So say Leicester appoint him, whenever this week, next week, whenever it is. What can Leicester expect from him? What is his pros?
He'll be he'll come across really well in the press conference to the fans. Like you've no doubt seen on social media that a lot of the celebrations when Wednesday won were with the manager in front of the fans, giving it all the olays and all that. And he obviously had a song that was sung about, and words changed from his name to a Greg's pasty type thing, from the red half of Sheffield. And that was that's what the fans love. They love that, him getting involved and all that. You get that. He was very much He went to things behind the scenes, supporters groups, evenings and all sorts of supporting charities. He had a flat in Sheffield. His family still live in Germany, so I think that might be a massive thing. He's been here 18 months and he's got 2 young kids that came to the games a lot of times. So you'll get that side of him, but then you'll probably get the no nonsense as well of how do I put it? Not in press conferences, but he'll be very direct with probably what he wants, and he may use them, which he has done at Sheffield Wednesday, use the media to get what he wants. So there was a couple of times where he said things in the press conferences that everyone knew was a barb to the owner to say, look, I'm saying this because I need something and want something. So there is that side to him as well.
What's he like with young players?
It's a hard one. It's a hard one because Sheffield Wednesday have not got that depth in our youth system. Like I mentioned earlier, we've got Pierce Charles, who is looking to be a fantastic goalkeeper, 19-year-old. He's come through the youth ranks, got signed from Man City, I believe he started off, but then he's at Sheffield Wednesday, really good promise. And he put him in for the last, I think, 10 games, I think he was, the last eight games of the season, and he did really well. We've got Gabriel Ogtagbeo, who's a centre-back, who did get some games. But other than that, we've not really got our young players. We've got the likes of Gassama and Masaba, who are bought-in young players, which they played. Masaba, a couple of injuries, but Gassama, really good last season for us. But we are struggling. So it's hard to say that the young guys that he brought in did get minutes. But the young guys that have come up through Sheffield Wednesday, pretty hampered because we don't think we've got we haven't got the players there, and that's probably down to Chancery because our training facilities are from the Arc. They are need seriously updating, which they are being done this summer, which is too late for Danny Rohl with the looks of it.
I think with Rohl, he's charismatic and he's very much. He's got a high ceiling. You can see why sides want to appoint him, and they are interested from many sides. There's been many times he's been linked with other jobs, and you can see why. He's learned from the best. He's come up from nowhere to somewhere. He's very data watchable, and he'll watch all the data and put everything into timing, and it shows how hungry he is to succeed. You look at Kieran McKenna, they're very analysed managers. They take time in their work to know how to go to the next level, and this is what I see with Danny Rohl, 36 years old, still very much good. If these older managers like Sean Dyche, Chris Wilder, Brendan Rodgers and everyone actually cared a lot more about data, they'd add a lot more to the game, wouldn't they? They'd actually have a plan B. But with you looking at Danny Rohl, he has an attacking side approach, but then he can go defensive if he needs to. I'm not saying he's going to turn into bloody Steve Cooper because that's a no-go if it is. How do you sort of see him with the fans? Is he one that loves to really build that bond with the fans and really bring that relationship back together with the club? Because at the minute at Leicester, you'd say the relationship between the board and the fans are very much broken. Do you think that's something he can go and build if he does come in?
I think so. It's probably the same situation we've got Sheffield Wednesday. Like I said, with the fans and the owner, it's untenable. They want the owner to sell out. They want him to go as quick and soon as possible. Probably the light in all that was Danny Rohl. Originally, obviously, like I said, we've said it many times now, it's gone a bit south towards the fans. But yes, there's been plenty of clips of when the full-time whistle gone. He's run over to the fans. He's got that. He's been going, I think, his first game at Hillsborough, he went round, shook everyone's hand, in the stands and all that. And then at the end of every game at Hillsborough, he'd let the players go round, do their little clap, and then he'd go round and still talk to people, then clap them and all that. So, and I think that is what us as fans want to see, don't we? We want a little bit of that connect with the manager, and I'm sure there's a lot of managers that do it. But it was purely because of he got us out of a hole in the first season. He got us out of the unthinkable. So a lot of fans were really tucked into the Danny Rohl ethos and the way that he was and where he is. Sorry, bloody hell, I'm just doing it again. He's still a Sheffield Wednesday manager. So the way that he is. And it's nice to see. It's nice to have that. And whenever there were fans waiting before and after the game, he'd always sign things. And I know it's a given, isn't it, for players and managers like that, but he really did. There was a couple of stories of what he'd done as well around the club. So yeah, on the face of it, on the public face of it, it was very positive. Now, what's happened? Is he really like that in the club? I'm sure lots of stories will come out whenever or if ever he leaves. I'm sure there's always something that comes out that is not as nice to the players that we thought and things like that. But I'm sure Leicester fans don't really want to be hearing stuff like that, because a new manager comes in, you want him to be all sweetness and light and take Leicester or whoever the next club is or whoever your next manager is going to be to heart, to the fans. So I just be wary of obviously how he's conducted himself in the last few months, and that's just me. That's some Wednesday fans feel the same. I'm sure there's still a massive amount that have got a lot of respect for him because of what he's done.
I've got two more questions for you.
Yeah.
So Leicester fans have a conspiracy, right? Danny Rohl last week, what was it? He's going to be leaving Sheffield Wednesday. The day before the fixture release came out, by the way. We didn't know anything about the fixtures at the time. And then all of a sudden, the day after, Leicester got Sheffield Wednesday first game of the season, haven't they, at the King Power? And then the day after that, Ruud van Nistelrooy gets sacked. Well, mutual consent, whatever you want to call it. You know what it's like when thing. Do you think there's something in that, Ash? Looking at that as what it is, do you think there's something in that with Rohl to Leicester? And what is your initial thoughts on the links to Leicester with Danny Rohl?
I don't think there's anything in with the fixtures. I think the fixtures are the fixtures. Now, for me, it's on Sky on a Sunday afternoon. I'm sure Sky TV and Sky have talked to Sky Bet, and said like, oh, who's one of the favourites for the Leicester? Always Danny. Oh, look at that! It's funny that Leicester plays Sheffield Wednesday. Let's put it on Sky, just in case. I'm at the juncture here where Danny Rohl is not going to go back to Sheffield Wednesday. I just can't see it. I really can't. With everything that's happened from the last game of the season, catching a plane, not saying anything to anyone or hearing of anything that he's done with Sheffield Wednesday. Now, Leicester, I'm not sure, to be honest, because of all the links he's had to previous clubs. We've said that there must have been 5 or 6 clubs that his name has been mentioned, but it's like that old merry-go-round when it was Kirbishley, Allardyce, and in them days when any job came up, it was always the same ones. And Danny Rohl seems to be on that merry-go-round of the same managers being mentioned. He needs a job. I'm sure he can't sit there wanting to work and his name being still probably thought of in good circumstances because of what he's done at Sheffield Wednesday, and still finishing 12th in the Championship for us last season. I was really happy with that. A lot of fans were like, well, we were 6th and 7th and teetering and we should have strengthened. Yes, but to finish 12th, I was quite happy. So I think he still has goodwill from owners of clubs. It's just strange that he hasn't. If it is the release clause that's put teams off, then fair enough. He signed it. Tough doo-doo. You knew what it was when you signed the contract. And that's where we're at. Because if a player was doing that, you'd say the same. Can't sell him X, Y, Z. You knew what he was signing and all that. If it has been reduced to 1 million for still unproven manager in the Championship, it's not the biggest gamble, is it? £1 million.
Yeah. I mean, we signed James
I'll take it.
£1 by the way, Sheffield Wednesday
Well,
fan, you know.
Well, there you go then. See, £1 million can buy you the Premier League. But it's £1 million. If he's reduced from 5 million, he's a lot better prospect at 1 million than 5 million. So Southampton put off by 5 million. Leipzig may have been put off by 4.5 million. Wolfsburg by 4 million. And it's creeping down and down, because if Chancellor is doing that with his club, he's doing it with his manager that really don't want to be here. So he's got to get rid of him and get some money in, because he needs to pay the month's wages. I can see. I don't know. I really don't know with Leicester. Is it would it be a good fit for Danny Rohl? Probably, because of the money situation, and that's what we see as fans, as me, is that he will have a little bit more money. He will get paid every month, and he has got some players that I know you'll lose some, but you will still have a core of Premier League players that he's going to work with. So if you were a betting man, then I am unfortunately a betting man. Yes.
Would you bet him going to Leicester? I know he's one of the favourites with the bookies at the minute, quite high up there. Would you say his next one could be with Leicester?
It could be Leicester. It could be Leicester. But I've seen today that Carsley, after the thing, is linked as well. His odds have come massively in, which will do, because he's just one thing. And for me, he won't get the England job after the summer. He'll go to Eddie Howe or someone like that. Yeah. So where's he going to go? He's got to get out and get a club going if he wants a club job. That is, Terence, on your thing, the better stadium, better. You have seen Leicester's training facilities. Oh my God! They look very good. If you do that, and then you look at Millwall Road, which is Sheffield Wednesday's training facilities, night and day. Like you're in the 22nd century, and we're in the bloody 19th century. It is really bad. We're having our pitch relayed, which it's not ready. So the players came back on Thursday. Can't even touch grass. So they're in the gym, chucking weights around and going on the bikes, doing the fitness stuff. So the pitch ain't even ready. Training the stadium, agree. As much as I love Sheffield Wednesday and Hillsborough, proper old school stadium, and you can keep saying that, but it needs updating. You can still have an old school stadium, but update it.
My head still tells me Rohl wants to go back to Germany. I mean, 2 jobs that he could have got, though, to go back to Germany. So this is the thing. It's how much does he really want to go back there? Because if he did, these German clubs would actually have took him.
I think Jay's a Wednesday fan. He does comment on our streams quite a lot. And I agree. But like we said, Wolfsburg, Leipzig, Schalke in Bundesliga 2 looking for a manager.
He didn't fancy it.
He may have fancied it, but they didn't fancy him. Yeah,
that's what.
Do you know what I mean? So I would
a woman in it, Ash, where you'd fancy her, but then she's like, "Yeah, he's not a bit of me that."
and the way he's acted, he has definitely twerked. And the Wednesday fans said that. So twerked in front of a fair few clubs this summer, and then he's not got it. So yes, I think his first port of call would be Germany. Agree with Jay there. But man's got to work, can he? And if there's nothing there, he's going to go.
He's going to be desperate. And Leicester,
which is a Leicester fan. You don't really want to hear that, do you? Really, that you're maybe his 3rd or 4th choice, but he wants a job. No.
But someone says he's had his eye on Fulham, so.
Bloody hell, I've had my eye on Sabrina Carpenter. It ain't gonna work, is it? Jesus.
But I think Chris Powell knows the club well as well. Defensive man, it's defensive bloke, and Chris Powell, very good in his day. Leicester can't defend, so I'm sure he can strengthen that up a bit more ahead of the new season, set pieces and stuff like that. So he'd be one that I'd welcome back. we've obviously got Andy King, club legend and that, who does good things for the football club, who's got very good knowledgeable, who Danny Rohl can work with because he knows the club well, so they'd help him bed in a lot more quicker. But Leicester are going to be desperate. That they have to get the right appointments and then get him in quick, because pre-season's the first game's next Saturday against Peterborough at training ground. So, like Ash said, lowering Rohl's contract clause means he's leaving and coming to Leicester. Fingers crossed. Ask Chad Zeri, Terry. Ask Chad Zeri what's happening.
Mate, if anyone, I would be well down the list of asking Chansiri questions, because I
Is
think
it 5 million to talk to him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Terry, you got 5 million quid in your back pocket.
If you fancy buying Sheffield Wednesday and you want to have a Zoom, because he's in Bangkok. Well, apparently he's in Bangkok, but no one knows where he actually is and speaks to him. He's not communicated with the staff at the club, players, anybody. So he's not even talking to HMRC or the VAT man or anyone. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that's after him.
He's done them good and proper, hasn't he, HMRC?
Yeah. So the consortium that are trying to buy Sheffield Wednesday, he came out with a statement the other day saying that he wanted £5 million depositing into his bank account for them to talk to him over Zoom, which is absolutely mental. But they came back with saying, well, we'll put it into a joint account like an escrow, so no one can touch it. If the whole deal falls through, we get it back. If it starts to progress, you get it as part of the deal. And he was, no, I need it in the club accounts, which obviously needs to pay the players and staff.
To pay the players with that money, so it's going to rip them off even more. But no, Ash, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. Thanks for giving us an in-depth into Danny Rohl. We appreciate it. But no, let everybody know where they can find you, mate, before I let you go.
Yes, mate. Yeah, Wednesday week podcast. We're all over the socials. TWW cast. Monday nights we go live on our weekly show, and then we do obviously review shows in the season and bits and pieces of specials that we put out. So yeah, appreciate it if anyone wants to come over and listen to us be down in the dumps and pretty negative, because that's where it's at the minute as a Sheffield Wednesday fan. It's great.
Cheers, Ash. We'll see you for the first game of the season at the King Power. And maybe Danny Rohl might be in the home dugout. We'll see the Danny Rohl derby. The Danny Rohl derby. Yeah, well, if he is, he may not get the warmest reception from the away fans. So I'll just say that. We'll see. But cheers, Ash. No problem, Jack. Thank you. That was Ash from the Wednesday week. Good chat, really in depth into Danny Rohl. Good chat. Thanks to everyone for coming in. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed this stream. Subscribe to the channel if you know you haven't subscribed already. Get that and do so. If you watch this on playback, let me know your thoughts on Danny Rohl. He's one of the favourites for the Leicester job, isn't he? He's on the shortlist. He's a contender. Will Leicester roll the dice on Danny Rohl? Pay that £1 million compensation? Only the club's going to know that, aren't they? But we'll see what happens if things develop, as Leicester City are back for pre-season tomorrow, the 30th of June, and then let's see how it rolls out. But no, thanks for watching. Take care. We're going to be live with more streams as we get them. Yeah, thanks for that, Thomas. But yeah, we're going to be live with streams, transfer news and all that. If you follow us, go and follow us on TikTok at The Final Whistle. We do a lot of content over there as well, videos and that. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter at The Final Whistle. And I will catch you soon as we roll out of this stream. Take care. Have a great rest of the Sunday and see you soon.